Hey guys, what's up? My name's Vlad Main. I'm a Master Vlad Main on NA. And today I'm gonna make the videos some guys in my stream have been asking from me, which is some early Vlad builds and the playstyles that come along with it. To kick this off, I'm gonna start with the full CDR build. This is a more beginner-friendly build and is a good starting platform for newer Vlad players. You will want to initially buy a Doran Shield and a health pot. This will give you more sustain and safety in laning phase. This build's first full item will either start with a defensive item or proto belt. This will be decided upon the matchup you're in. An AD assassin matchup, such as Zed or Talon, will require Zhonya's, while an AP assassin or poke mage, such as Xerath, Syndra, Ori, LeBlanc, Katarina, Biz, and so on, will require a Banshee's Veil. Champions that are not as threatening to the early game, such as Corki, Heimerdinger, Lux, TF, Veigar, and Ziggs, bring the ability to build Proto-Belt, but first for a cheaper buy as well as a little more skirmishing power. Following this first item buy, you want to buy whichever the first two options you didn't buy. If you want Proto first, the defensive item doesn't have to be the best against your laner if the other defensive item is better for your position in the game overall. By the time you've finished your second item, you should also have CDR boots. The next item on your list will be either Deathcap, Void Staff, a second defensive item, or in the rare instance of necessity, Morellonomicon. This is all depending on what the enemy team has built. If the enemy team has little to no MR, or if their MR is just on their tanks, go for Deathcap. The exception to this is if you're going against heavy healing champs such as Akali, Fiddlesticks, Mundo, Alawi, or Nasus. Else, if the enemy team has bought a decent amount of MR, or even if just your laner won an early Banshee's Veil or Maw, you will want to build Void Staff. The last option is the defensive item you did not already pick. If the enemy team is still likely to kill you extremely fast despite having a single defensive item, or if their damage is diverse and threatening enough to warrant different defensive items, build either Banshees or Zhonya's, whichever you haven't already. If you go double defensive items, pretty much the only way to finish the build path off is to build a Void Staff and then to finish it off with a Death Cap, and only switch Void for Morello's in this situation if the enemy team has 0 MR. If you did go Void or Morello's, for your third item, then you should go for Deathcap next. If you built Deathcap third, then Void is the item that should come next. The final item is an option between whichever of the pen items that you did not buy and a Spellbinder. If the enemy team has built even more MR, then build another pen item. This will help break into their team in team fights as well as still kill the carries even if they have MR. If the enemy team is still low on MR and their carries are vulnerable, go Spellbinder. The extra AP and movement speed will be helpful in getting into their back line and hitting it quickly and extremely hard. The two rune setups that I would recommend with this build are either Electrocute or Predator with a sorcery secondary on both. For Electrocute, the rune build should be Electrocute, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Ravenous Hunter. For sorcery, take Transcendence and Gathering Storm. With Predator, you take Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Ravenous Hunter. In sorcery, you would take Nimbus Cloak along with Transcendence. Electrocute will give you a bit more lane pressure as well as late game teamfight burst, and the Predator build is better for Proto first buy so that you can clear the way fast and head to a side lane for a gank. The Nimbus Cloak helps you keep your speed up so that you're able to get into the middle of the enemy team with your E pool. The playstyle of this build is a more passive early game against most champs. This isn't to say that you have no kill potential, but you don't need to be looking for a kill at every chance you have. This build is made for team fighting and being able to survive the laning phase. You're just trying to get through the laning phase without dying and use the backup of your team to initiate team fights. If you have Zhonya's, you have the ability to proto into the enemy for an ult E pool, and then using Zhonya's as you come out of the pool. This gives you enough time for your team to catch up and continue the fight, as well as for your ult to pop and give you back any health you might have lost in that team fight. If You have a Banshee's, it gives you the freedom to escape after putting your combo down. It will either stop CC from hitting you before you are able to go in, or it will allow you to get out of the enemy team because they have to hold their CC waiting until your Banshee's is gone. The next build I will talk about is the one that I personally use. This build leans more towards CDR, but still holds a lot of damage. The build is less forgiving than the previous one. You will be squishier and have a little less healing from runes, but you will have more damage. To kick off the game, I buy a Doran shield as well as a health pot, and the first item I am going to get is a Spellbinder. The movement, speed, and AP allow me to hit a good early power spike, as well as having the ability to clear waves and roam fast. I generally buy CDR boots either early first or before I finish my first item in most cases. The second item I am going to buy is a proto belt for the HP, CDR, and mobility that it gives me so that I am able to get on the target. The other three items I build are Morello's, Void Staff, and Death Cap. I build these three items in the order that I need them, based off of what the enemy team has built. If they have tons of MR, I will build both pen items before Death Cap. If they have no MR, I will build Death Cap to be able to one-shot them extremely hard, and if they have lots of heals, I will build Morello's. It all depends on the enemy team and their builds. The runes I take are Electrocute with Sorcery second. My entire rune setup is Electrocute, Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Ultimate Hunter. The Sorcery tree contains Transcendence and Gathering Storm. The Electrocute gives me some pressure against harder matchups, although my runes are more geared towards the late game so that I am more effective there in team fights. The Eyeball Collection makes it easier to fend off slit pushers if I need to be there, and the Ult Hunter makes sure my ult is up constantly so that my team doesn't have to wait a long time to reinitiate a team fight if necessary, if I have been skirmishing in a side lane. Transcendence and Gathering Storm are both geared towards giving me a better mid to late game at the cost of lane pressure. My playstyle on this build is that I don't want to be team fighting until I have at least 2 items. Before 2 items, my cooldowns are long and don't usually hold enough damage to hold up in a 5v5 team fight. I am either hoping that the laning phase continues for longer, or that one of the side lane towers gets knocked down so that I'm able to go to a side lane and hard farm until I get the necessary items. When I am ready to team fight, I have to play it differently based on the amount of damage I can output and if I have flash. If I have flash and can one-shot an enemy carry, given the chance, I will activate Spellbinder and flash into the middle of the enemy team with a charged E. I will ult before releasing my E, Q a person, and then pull away. The proto can either be used to get closer to the enemy if needed, or it can be used as an escape tool if the damage is there and the gap closer is not necessary. If I don't have flash, then I will be letting my team engage, and be looking for an opportunity to get a Spellbinder rush into their backline once their front line is overextended. I am okay dying in this scenario if I am able to put my team into a position to win the fight. Another thing to play off of is to play off the side and wait for a flank opportunity once the fight has started. The last build I will talk about today is the Gaylord's build. This build is a full AP damage and AP pen build. It is consistently and effectively used by an EU West Master Challenger Vlad main named Elite 500. This build and playstyle is much more risk-reward than the other two. Elite will generally start with a Dark Seal and a refillable potion for more damage in the early game, as well as a consistent way for sustain without having to buy health pots. His first item is usually a Void Staff or a Morellonomicon if he does not have the money for a needlessly large rod. He wants a lot of early pressure, so if he does not have enough money for the needlessly large rods, he will go to buy 1 or 2 blasting wands to get his flat AP up quickly. He buys sorcery boots early into the game and is looking to finish his death cap at the earliest possible point he can. If he is doing well and his Dark Seal is stacking, he will change that into a Magi's second. Otherwise, he will wait until later in the game. If he is able to complete his death cap early, his next item is Morello's and is quickly followed via Void Staff. If he is not able to get his death cap first, he will generally go Morello's into Void into death cap or Morello's death cap Void. His last item is either Rylai's or Leandri's Torment after he has upgraded his Dark Seal into a Magi's. The Gigalord's runes consist of Electrocute with Sorcery Secondary. He takes Electrocute, Taste of Blood, Ghost Poro, and Ravenous Hunter. In Sorcery, he takes Nimbus Cloak and Absolute Focus. His runes allow for him to have more early game pressure due to the Absolute Focus giving him early AP and his Ghost Poro having the potential to give him even more if he puts it in the right place. The Nimbus Cloaks gives him the ability to get into the middle of enemy teams in the fights and output huge amounts of damage with his full pen build. This presents him with opportunities around level 3 to flash in with a fully charged E and empowered Q paired with an Electrocute proc to get him an early kill. This early kill helps him snowball into more items as well as giving him more lane pressure, which causes him to have more roam potential from the enemy laner backing off. In team fights, he is looking for the best opportunity to flash into the middle of the enemy team and cause major chaos with his full pen build. Although because of the way he builds, he is more flash reliant in team fights and his flash and ult are on long cooldowns due to having no CDR, which means he wants to have longer time in between the fights that happen. So that's going to be it for the video, guys. I hope this helps any aspiring Vlad mains to get out into the world, and I hope to see you guys on the Rift.